Well, here we go. Renewed fears that Ripple's in trouble. Value of XRP, long term, what's that going to look like? And why? Because we've got some news from IBM/Stellar that there's some new bank partnership going on, and everybody's in a tizzy today, at least on Twitter. Hi, this is Matt on the Moon Lambo channel, and before we get going, if you would please give me a thumbs up. Just delicately tap that little thumbs up icon right there on your screen, and if you haven't, please subscribe. I definitely appreciate all the support that I get. This piece here, I pulled up a couple pieces on this topic, actually. The first is from ccn.com, titled XLM surges 11% after IBM partners 6 global banks to use Stellar blockchain. And sure enough, Stellar blockchain. But let me go down to one of the more pertinent points within this piece and read just these few sentences right here under the heading IBM announcement Coinbase listing. IBM announced Monday that it had partnered with 6 international banks to use Stellar-powered blockchain payment network. Per its statement, Stellar's blockchain would allow those banks to move value across borders more cheaply and swiftly, that's good, than traditional payment networks using stablecoins. Did you hear that part? Using stablecoins, right? And so, in sense, I don't know what's under the hood of this technology here because I don't know that that's even been released. You know, to be honest, it seems like, to me, fairly rare. Like over the last year and a half that I've almost been in crypto this long. You don't see a lot of big news coming out of Stellar and their partnerships or this or that. And as a result, since there haven't been truly notable business developments, okay, this would be one, but there haven't been a whole lot. There's not a whole lot of clarity on what the technology looks like. How's it actually going to function? And so it made me wonder, is this just a messaging system that's blockchain based, kind of like Ripple's X-Current, which is the messaging portion of the transaction for payments? And probably. And if it's like X-Current, you can settle with X-Current using anything that you want. You can settle with gummy bears if you want to. Now, that wouldn't be particularly economically viable, but if you wanted to, you could, because X-Current is simply the messaging portion of that. If you want to attach a value to gummy bears and pre-fund gummy bear and Nostro accounts or whatever, something stupid like that, the point is you can do it with anything you want. And so when I read this and that they're using it with stable coins, I just like, wow, you guys are just, you're reinventing like a broken wheel, okay? We already have enough friction in payments. We have enough. We absolutely have enough. In fact, I'm going to jump ahead 2 stories just to make this point, and then I'll come back to this. Look at this headline from CoinDesk. Citi has scrapped its plan for a JPM coin-like bank-backed cryptocurrency. You may recall within the last few weeks, I can't remember if it's been 4 weeks or whatever, but JP Morgan came out announcing that they've got their bank coin, and it's going to be backed by fiat currencies, and then people were flipping out, oh, this is a slap in the face to Ripple, this or that, and it couldn't be further from the truth. It just isn't. It's more reinventing the wheel. So that's JPM. Again, that news came out within the last several weeks or so. I'd have to look at the specific date, but it was recent. Citi announced that they were doing the same thing back in 2015. And I remember reading a piece from Brad Garlinghouse that I actually cited it in one of my earlier videos. He happened to have written it on LinkedIn. I don't know why he chose that particular venue, but that's what he did. It's public, so you can go read it. But he was talking about just how short-sighted it is to think that using bank coins can actually solve the friction that's in that is the headache, the train wreck that is global payments, cross-border payments right now. And so Citi, while they looked into it and they announced that they were moving forward with it initially, found out, I just read this, and they're out. They're no longer moving forward with Citicoin. And the things that they learned in the process of considering this coin, even when it seemed to me, I thought it was actually greenlit at some point anyway. They actually gained some knowledge about how the payment rails work, and they decided, as they put it, within this article anyway, that they think that rather than focus on future technology, they want to increase the efficiency of the technology out there today. And I'm paraphrasing, but that's essentially what was stated within this CoinDesk piece here. And I kind of don't blame them, because I think that they understand also, if they came to their senses here, the shortcomings of a bank-backed, a fiat-backed cryptocurrency. So now, that the fact that they thought they're going to move forward with that and then stopped, okay, super duper. It doesn't mean that everybody's going to see, the burden of adoption you'd actually have to go through to get this to work. So maybe JP Morgan, maybe they're cocky enough to think they can actually pull this off and have it work in some massive way, but they're not going to be able to. It's not that the technology wouldn't work at all. I'm not saying that. The technology, the code behind it itself could be perfectly fine. It's the overall plan. So, given that I've already covered ad nauseum the problems with bank coins, I'm not going to delve too much further into that. But they could have adoption because they could grow their own little walled garden, and yes, there could be some adoption, but it doesn't fix the global payments problem. You still have to have pre-funded Nostro accounts with anybody outside of that walled garden environment. So it just doesn't fix it. So it doesn't mean that they couldn't do this and find some little bit of success and maybe be around for some time, maybe for decades. It's possible. Again, it's not the real solution, but you still need decentralized digital assets out there like XRP. Okay, so the world's seemingly barely dipping their toes in the water of the concept of that. We're getting there. Like Ripple's really building something with Xcurrent and with XRapid being adopted by more and more cryptocurrency exchanges. We've got one bank publicly announced that's using it, EuroXM Bank, and so that's all cool. It's going to take a long time, but that's happening. And with this particular use case over time, I think, not financial advice, but it could help drive over the long term the value of XRP. Of course, there's a lot of other developers on the XRP ledger, so it's not the only reason that I believe that the value of XRP could rise over time. But you can settle. So, I mean, for those of you that don't know, XLM, and not that I know a ton about XLM, I know that new XLM can be created, whereas XRP is deflationary. I know that. That's a fun piece of information. I know that XLM, which is Stellar, it's Lumens, and I own some, by the way, just not a ton. But where was I going with that? All right, XLM, it was actually it's not a fork of XRP. That would be a misnomer. I've heard it described that way. And actually, when I was earlier in the crypto space, I actually incorrectly used that language. But it is basically a copy of XRP that was modified and then launched. That's essentially what XLM is. And so you could use either to settle. You could use Bitcoin to settle. It's more about what's the most efficient. We'll do it most efficiently. Like what decentralized digital asset has the attributes that you, Mr. Financial Institution Manager, are looking for. And you're going to see adoption of this. And so, well, it's stated here, and let me read this last piece. I don't think I covered the last sentence here, which is also fun. Now I'm back on the original piece here. This is right after the part where it stated that they're going to be using stablecoins here. It says, IBM also admitted that it had proposed its new partners to use XLM as a bridge currency whenever it becomes hard to trade one fiat-backed stablecoin for another. So even they right there are acknowledging, yeah, we're going to have some headaches. This isn't an actual fix. It really isn't. It really is not an actual fix. So that's the reason that this technology is so valuable. It's the reason that if you really want to solve the cross-border payment problem, which part of it is settlement also, you need digital assets here. And that's just going to... And so then you might ask, okay, if that's that's the truth that I see. I think that's what's going to occur at some point. I just don't know exactly how it's all going to unfold and the twists and turns that we're going to go through here. But given that's the case, in my mind at least, who's going to make this happen? And is there going to be one victor? Well, I think no, there's not going to be one victor, even within this space. I find it highly unlikely, and that would be perfectly fine. A lot of people I saw on Twitter were comparing it to Coke and Pepsi, harmoniously existing together. Okay, which fair enough example. That's reasonable. But and it just goes back to what I'm saying is personal preferences. It's easy to say in the case of Coke and Pepsi, which one do you think tastes better? Okay, there are other attributes to consider when you're talking about utilizing it of cross-border payments. Okay, and so you might say, what about first mover advantage? Well, that is a big part of it. And who is winning in terms of first mover advantage? Ripple's intended use case for XRP, I mean, that's light years ahead of anything that Stellar's doing right now. So if this is an announcement, fine. This is a big deal right now for IBM and Stellar. They're announcing that they're going to use blockchain technology. It's going to help with efficiency and presumably reduce the cost of transfers for cross-border payments, or at least between this small network of 6 banks or whatever. Okay, step in the right direction. But you're nowhere near where Ripple has gotten in terms of actually having a commercially used software that's using digital assets, in this case XRP. They're already out there. And so talk about first mover advantage. And then, so if XRP does become the standard, genuinely, over time, and it will take a lot of time, but if Ripple achieves that goal, and XRP is used for the majority, or even just a gigantic percentage of cross-border payments as a bridge currency, it will be very difficult to dethrone a standard like that. That's just how standards work in general in life, to be honest with you. When something is a standard, good luck getting rid of it. You need something that is substantially greater to dethrone a standard. And that's what we're seeing here with the technology that's been around for, 50 years or whatever it is, when Swift developed which basically it's an archaic messaging system. That's really all it is. Swift itself doesn't do the settlement, just the messaging. It helps the banks connect so that they can settle and have, they got their pre-funded Nostro accounts and that all over the world. That's all fine. But it took something substantially better to actually fix this problem, because, banks, I mean, come on, let's be real. They did know, and I've read stuff on. I didn't have topics pulled up, articles pulled up here, but I have read that banks, yes, were aware of this problem many, many decades ago. The fact that it can take days and days for money to move cross borders, they were well aware of this, and they were looking into things. From what I had read about having just like one currency that we can all agree on, that's just backed, and then we're somehow going to magically agree that this is the value of it, and that nothing like that ever got going. Think about that, all the geopolitical preferences, and who are you going to trust to actually, and who's going to enforce that value? If a particular fiat currency falls apart, what's it really backed by? And that's why until this technology exists, you just couldn't solve this problem. There was no way. So it'll be neat to see how it unfolds. Don't know exactly what it's going to look like, but it's coming. And I suspect, just based on the publicly available information today, that Ripple's going to, just through their own efforts, ensure that XRP will have a lot to do with that. And maybe XLM, maybe that's somehow going to be a piece of it too. I don't know. The technology, from what I understand, it's so close to XRP. Is there an upside that financial institutions are it's going to prompt them to want to use that? And also consider, and I covered this recently too, there was, it was within the last couple weeks, I think, it was part of one of my videos, and somebody, might have been this guy here that's on the screen, Jesse Lund, it might have been him, stated that they had been looking into using other cryptocurrencies and actually even cited XRP. And I was like, how about that? So, fair enough. So I don't know that they're just all in bed with Stellar here and using lumens for cross-border payments, but there's something going on here. They have a relationship, obviously. That's crystal clear, right? And maybe it would be as simple as the tech used to facilitate cross-border movement, utilizing XLM, assuming that technology is even ready, which I didn't read that in this article. But even if, then perhaps a big part of the reason that they'd be pushing to use XLM is because the blockchain technology that they've announced here within this network of 6 banks would work most efficiently with that. Maybe those two pieces of the puzzle work well together, and that's why they'd push for XLM. And that would be a reasonable thing to do too. Whatever. If they think it's something they can make happen, whatever. I like people participating. I like businesses participating in the crypto space like this, and we're going to find out who the winners are. So if it's XLM, if it's XRP, or a blend of the two that get the lion's share of action as an agent for cross-border transactions, as a bridge currency, hey, I'm all for it, whatever. I'm still banking heavy on XRP, and again, like I said earlier in this video, not financial advice. This is my opinion. That's all that is. And so I also was reading, this is another one. This is just from Bitcoinist. I'm going to link both these below in case there's one that you'd prefer to read. I just read through both of them real quickly. And there's not a tremendous amount of difference in the information, but I just thought I'd share with you all the information that I read through today. So there's that. All right, next topic here. And this is from Wrath of Kahneman. I don't know if I'm saying that right. At W. Kahneman. Well, it's on the screen here. Anyway, I just followed him earlier today. I'd never seen him before, but I appreciated what he was sharing here. So, and I like to follow everybody that's in the XRP community. So anytime I come across somebody, I just hit follow. But anyway, check this out. This is cool. This is another little story of real-world adoption. And he tweeted out, "Welcome to the future. Money Message is an add-in for MS Outlook that lets you send XRP over email by integrating Wheatson's tip bot." Wheatson being Wheatson Wen, the creator of the XRP tip bot. And I clicked on it, and here's the page right here. So this, of course, will be linked below as well. But, yeah, Man, see, this is cool. This is something that you can't do with fiat currency because settlement just isn't instant. If you want to move digital assets which have real value because there's real market forces at play, you can move this digital asset, XRP, in real time, and it moves instantly. You can actually move value instantly today. And this is cool. And, you know, part of what I talked about in the past, I hadn't talked about it in some time, but part of what it's going to take to get people to adopt cryptocurrencies on a much larger scale, to have them actually be used in their daily lives, is it's going to have to be much easier to use. Just it's same as, you know, back in the 80s. You imagine buying a computer before there were graphic user interfaces, GUIs, GUI, you know, before there were graphic user interfaces. Try programming on that bad boy, you know? What were you going to do with that? Could you envision the World Wide Web? Could you envision Netflix? Could you envision everything you could do once you create the internet and like plug it in? Well, I guess it technically was already created at that point, but you know what I mean? Once it wasn't developed. And, you know, you had to build it all. You actually had to build the infrastructure. And so this is early days here. Right now, it's not easy to use crypto. I remember when I figured it out, I'm sorry, what is a private key does a what-a-who, and it's like 20 bazillion letters and this or that, and then if it's lost, then that's it forever, and there's no custody solutions, and there's a whole bunch of stuff, and it's just not easy to use. It's just not user-friendly. And so I like seeing this, because this is a different use case than what Ripple is intending XRP to be used for, and that's awesome, because if you have XRP, you can do whatever you want with your XRP because it's decentralized. That's incredible, and it has actual value, again, because of market forces. I absolutely love that. So I wanted to share that with you. I'm not much of a tech nerd, but this doesn't look too terribly difficult to install, so I might start playing around with this, you know. But nonetheless, it's actually just neat. Like even without this plugin, XRP Tipbot has been adopted and continues to get more and more usage. I can't imagine a world where it doesn't continue to go in that direction, and that is cool. That's really cool. All right, last piece here. I'm going to share this below. It's like a just under a minute audio clip from Ashish Burla. He's the, oh God, what is his title? Senior Vice President of Products, maybe? I could be wrong. I can't remember now. But he's one of the guys that's been around Ripple forever, pretty much, and he just had this little 1 minute segment, which apparently is from a crypto podcast here from January of this year, and he was speaking about the importance of the cryptocurrencies having an actual use case, because only those cryptocurrencies, digital assets that have an actual use case, will be around for the long haul. And I thought it was such a cool little clip that I had to share it with you guys just as a little closer for this video. Thanks so much for listening. I really do appreciate all the support I get from you guys. I am not a financial advisor, so do not buy or sell anything because of anything that I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea.